Welcome to The Funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm the president of Alignment Group. This is episode 164 of The Funnel, 6-step sales hiring process. And we're going to talk about the identify stage, stage 1 of the process. Today, you will learn why identify sets the stage. We're going to talk about what it's more than a job description. It's important to understand your environment, the work environment, the environment that they're going to step into, not only in the company, but in the field. We're going to talk about the ideal candidate versus how it is today. So let's jump right into why identify sets the stage. First thing we need to do is determine the type of salesperson we need. That makes sense, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Why do we need to do that? Because it sets up the search. I can't find the right person unless I know what the right person looks like. I need to spend time on the front end identifying exactly what it is I need, so when I get to the search stage, I know where to look and where to find people, and I know what I'm looking for. And more importantly, I know what I'm not looking for. The assessment that I use, and most assessments, are based on the profile. I use the OMG assessment, best assessment out there. I keep saying it. That assessment is based on a profile of the ideal candidate. So if I'm benchmarking my assessment against that and I expect somebody I found to take that assessment, if I don't have the ideal attributes documented, I don't know exactly what it is I'm looking for, I'm benchmarking against the wrong assessment. And then that screws up my qualify. How do I qualify somebody if I really don't know what I'm looking for? And I've said it before and I'll say it again, and we're going to jump right into that. It's more than a job description. Everybody gets a job description when they start their sales job. Lays out roles and responsibilities, right? This is what you do. This is your boss. This is what's expected of you. This is how you process stuff through HR, whatever it is. But it's the description of how you're supposed to conduct yourself every day in your job. Generally, I find that they're very light job descriptions. And basically, we tell sales reps that they'll figure it out as they move along. And I think the biggest mistake that hiring managers make, and business owners and people in HR that are hiring salespeople, they just look at every sales role as the same. So salesperson A can be successful in sales role B because it's all the same. It's selling. Selling is selling, and I've heard that before. And the biggest mistake they make is failing to identify the behaviors, the DNA, the activities that are necessary to be successful in that role. And I'll say this. I'm kind of going on a tangent here. Sometimes they spend way too much time looking at the success in another job as translating into success here. Big mistake. You need to identify those behaviors, identify the activities that are necessary to be successful. And can that person that you're talking to fill that role? So when you identify the ideal candidate and you begin to build that out, it's really important to take a step back and think about that. Think about what they need. For example, if you have a large territory and they're walking into a customer base and they're expected to upsell that base, they're more of a farmer than a hunter. So the skill set to be successful in the farmer role is quite different than the hunter role. If I need someone to go out and drive new business, those behaviors are quite different. Their outreach is quite different. The people they're trying to make connections to don't necessarily know who they are and who we are, the company. So their skill set and the requirements for that job are much different. And I'm sure you can ask someone who was previously a farmer who wants to work for you as a hunter. You say, well, how do you feel about hunting? There's, I feel fine about that. I can do that. So I go back to the previous podcast when I said, don't lead the witness. It's up to you to determine what that ideal role looks like benchmark against it, and then peel back the layers through the interview process. Just because you get it right doesn't mean when you get to the search stage, you're going to find ideal candidates everywhere. You're not. So you still have to go through the process. But you're lowering the risk and eliminating the pretenders. I know exactly what it is I'm looking for. I'm benchmarking against that. So when I get to the search stage, I know what I'm looking for. I've just narrowed the field. And I'm not wasting my time. Let's take a moment here to remind you to subscribe to The Funnel. Go to our website, lyman-group.com/The Funnel. In the right-hand corner, you just click subscribe. All we're asking for is your first name and email address. We love subscribers. And why do we love subscribers? Because you listen to The Funnel and because subscribers get subscribers-only content, premium content. So right now, if you sign up for The Funnel, you'll receive this 6-step hiring process infographic. So everything I'm talking about in this podcast and the previous one and the next few podcasts are about the 6 steps in the hiring process. And you'll get it in a nice little infographic laid out for you step by step with some key bullet points. You can print it out and pin it up on your wall so you have it in front of you. Or keep it on your laptop. Refer to it whenever you need it. It's important to understand your environment. And I say that and people are probably laughing. Well, I understand my environment. Do you? Do you really understand what they're walking into? Not only internally in your company, but externally in the field. What is it like in the field? So I'm going to touch on a few here, but there's a lot more. It would take a fair amount of time for me to go through every one of them. How difficult is the job? What's the difficulty level? It's important to know. Is this a complex sale? Or are we just kind of churning small product, office supplies, etc.? I'm not saying that job's not difficult. You're selling a complex software system that requires a team approach. That's a little bit different. So what is the difficulty level? How much resistance will they get in the field? Right? Who are they talking to? And at what level in the company? Are they talking to presidents of Fortune 500 companies? Or are they talking to small business owners or managers or HR directors? Depending on what they're selling. That's going to affect who you bring in to do the job. And it's going to affect how much resistance they see every day. How much competition in the field? Is it a highly competitive market? Most markets are competitive, but how competitive? Does it come down to pennies? Is pricing an issue? Am I pricing high? Is my pricing low? Is my pricing in the middle? I came out of an environment years ago where we were 10 to 15% higher than our competitors across the board, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do about it. So you had to really be good at selling the value of the service you provided, or you were dead in the water. If you're a price person and you sell on price, you're in trouble in that company. So we had to look for people who could sell the whole package, the value add of what we brought to the table, because we were never going to be the lowest. And we were very successful because we understood our environment and brought the right people in to compete. What's the sales cycle like? If someone comes out of an environment that's a 30-day sales cycle and you move them into a 6-month sales cycle, can they be successful? And again, you don't ask the question, hey, I noticed you had a 30-day sales cycle. How would you feel about a 6-month? I can do that. You want, through your questioning, you want to understand it. Now, hopefully you've whittled it down in your search and you're not interviewing people like that, but it happens. What is that sales cycle like? What are they going to have to go against every time they find an opportunity? What's the average order size? If they're moving into a space where it's $500,000 an order versus $50,000 an order, that's a different ballgame. What kind of management style do you deploy? And be honest with yourself. What I'd like to see is closely managed. And what closely managed means, you are supporting your rep through coaching, development, training. You're you're building them into better salespeople. And that requires closely managing someone. That doesn't mean babysitting. It just means being a value add to their daily events, a value add to their opportunities, a value add to them. Some sales managers say, hey, I'm hands off. I hire them and let them go. That's fine. I don't recommend it, but if that's what you wanted to be honest with yourself, if someone needs to be closely managed, they're not going to fit your environment. Or if someone feels like, I know everything, I don't need your help, they're not going to fit a closely managed environment. They can't be coached. And these are just a few things you need to do to understand your environment. Let's talk about the ideal candidate versus how it is today. This is where we get hung up a little bit on benchmarking against maybe how somebody's performing in the current territory or the person who vacated the territory or something to that effect. So you're benchmarking against that. And really what I would suggest is you look at it in the ideal world. How would I like it to be? In a perfect world, how would I like this candidate to be, and how would I like them to work within that territory instead of the way it is today? If you want to grow and you want to get better at what you do, then you have to think about what that looks like in all phases of your sales business. And one of them is the people you have selling for you. If you're constantly looking to fill territories, empty territories, there's something wrong. Yes, there's turnover in business, but it shouldn't be an everyday occurrence. It shouldn't be 6 months and I'm turning over a rep. A year, I'm turning over a rep. There's a problem. So you need to look at that. So first, if you're looking at hiring people, then it's the ideal candidate. What does that look like? So I suggest you map it out. You clearly define the attributes and experiences of the candidate and what that means for success in your business environment. This is what I need to be successful. So you develop an ideal candidate document, sort of a mapping document. You list all the skills, all the desired experience, the attitude, what kind of results you're expecting, the sales DNA. Do they have what it takes? Beyond just the basics, you want to dig deep. So if you have somebody that's going to spend the vast majority of their time on the phone, something as simple as they can have a phone conversation. Someone who is in person, well, that's a different conversation. They can understand body language, one-on-one. Can they manage a territory where they have to drive around or get on an airplane and go somewhere, et cetera, et cetera? What if the requirement is to do a lot of writing? Wouldn't you want to know if they could write? I can't believe how many times we hire salespeople, we haven't even checked if they could write an email. So I've taken clients through this process. Just map it out. Let's get the profile in place. Let's map out what that looks like. Let's put all the skills and the experience and the habit, the results we're looking for. Let's put it all down on paper. Let's develop the profile. Let's benchmark against that for our assessment. This is what I'm looking for. Take that and start searching for your client, whether that's with your recruiters or however you're searching for candidates. And we'll talk about that in the next podcast. But clearly define what you're looking for in the ideal world. That'll help you reduce the risk. It'll help increase the quality of candidate you bring in. It'll increase the quality of your sales team. And you'll be well on your way towards developing a high-performance sales team. That's it for today. Short and sweet. You can find us at Facebook. My Twitter handle's @ShayJohnR. You can find me on LinkedIn. Like I said before, if you dare, go to Google+. I don't think anybody's there anymore, but we have a Google+ page. You can contact me, Jay Shay, at alignment-group.com. My website is alignment-group.com. Keep filling the funnel.